Hello everybody, we're with Child Care Resource and Referral, and we want to kind of talk through and discuss what we're doing at Child Care Resource and Referral to be considered a literacy champion. Now, who is familiar with CCR&R? Do I have some friends? Okay, good. So for those of you that are not, Child Care Resource and Referral provides professional development, coaching, training to all licensed child care programs throughout the state that are licensed through the Department of Human Services. So with that being said, Child Care Resource and Referral Network is funded through a grant through DHS and Signal Centers. And we really want to take a moment and thank DHS for their support around early language and literacy initiatives. They've really stepped up and funded our initiatives and continue to support us. Yeah. So this is our early language and literacy leadership team that we have formed. Karen Wright is the Deputy Director for Early Language and Literacy as well as Developmental Support. My name is Regina Henning. I'm the coordinator for the team. Then we have Miss Katie Denton-Walls, who's an assistant coordinator, and we're in the process of a pretty big expansion of our team, and so we've just brought on Miranda Hughes as an additional assistant coordinator. And these are our literacy champions across the state. So we currently have 12 literacy coaches in the field working directly with child care providers. We're using research and evidence-based programs to really enhance our coaching and training. And we are working in every 95 county in Tennessee, and all of our services, all of our resources are completely free for, again, any licensed child care program. So I want to start here. Isn't she adorable with the book and the glasses? And I want to talk a little bit about our why. So Katie and I started in 2021, can you believe it's been 2021? As early language and literacy specialist for the state. So in that role, we really just provided support for every coach that we had across the state, whether they worked in infant toddler rooms, preschool rooms, family group providers, to really integrate language and literacy into everything that we do. And so when we started in 2021, guess what the hot topic was? It was our literacy rates. So what we see is that Tennessee continues to show that we have lots of room for improvement. We have many kids that are just not meeting the benchmarks that we need them to meet, not really demonstrating the skills that we really need them to demonstrate to make that shift from third grade to fourth grade. So here is just a little bit more detailed look. As you can see, COVID brought attention to, some would say, the literacy crisis in Tennessee, but it was not a new phenomenon in our state. So for many years, we've had children, many children, that are just not really meeting the needs that we need them to meet by third grade. So if you look at the bottom of the chart in that kind of bluish teal color, those are the children that are exceeding the expectations. If you look at the yellow, oh, thank you, Katie. Those are the children that are meeting the expectations. But as you can see, we've got a wide variety of children that really need more support in building literacy. So Katie and I are pretty passionate about early care and learning because we know this is where the majority of the brain develops in the first few years of life. So as you can see with this little guy, as a newborn to 2 years, the amount of neural connections that are just happening in the brain in the first few years of life. So we believe in developing strong foundations early. So let's talk about what we know. So as we began to do this work, we really dived a lot deeper into literacy development, really looking at specifically, how do children learn to read? What are the foundational skills that children need when they enter kindergarten to be a successful reader? And overall, this is what we've learned. Talkers build readers. We started taking a closer look at how children learn to read. We looked at what does a child need to be ready to enter kindergarten. And what we've learned is language builds a reading brain. Oftentimes when we think of our young children or children in general, have you heard the phrase, children need to be seen, not heard? Okay. It's a mindset that a lot of adults have, but what we know is children need language and they need to be conversational partners. So if we look at this continuum of how children learn to read, we can see that language and literacy, learning to read and reading to learn, is really built on a strong foundation of expressive language. Children learn to talk in our infant toddler classrooms. They use talking to learn in our preschool classrooms. And so what we say is for children to learn to read, they must have become conversational partners first. We continue to look at the research that really focused on language development. So this is another little shift in mindset, because I know people get so excited when young children can sing the ABC songs or they know the letters in their name. But really, it's that language development, building that background knowledge and those comprehension strategies that's really more important in the early years when the brain is developing the most than overly relying on those code-related skills. Okay, so who's familiar with the 30 million word gap? Okay, I see some head shakes there. So this was a landmark research study in '95 that really looked at children from various backgrounds. And for 2.5 years, they really looked and researched and analyzed every utterance made by the child. And so by age 3, they compared the recorded spoken vocabularies of children from some families compared to children from other families. So a lot of literacy research really settles around socioeconomic backgrounds. So what they looked at, children by the age of 3 that were from college-educated families were exposed to 45 million words, whereas children from families that were receiving assistance were only exposed to 15 million words. And that's where the whole phrase around the 30 million word gap was coined. So here are a few key takeaways that I take away from this study. If you look at where the gap begins to widen, how early does it start? Right around 18 months is when we start to see those gaps. So that lets us know we can't wait till they enter kindergarten. We really have to start early with building those strong foundations. The other key takeaway is that families' socioeconomic backgrounds, their situations are really hard to change in a short amount of time. And for our child care providers, they may be limited in how much support they can really support or provide for a family. But what we've been excited about are the future studies that are really showing the importance of those serve and return interactions. So the more children are exposed to having those back and forth turns, the gap can actually be closed. And that's something that we can control. So early interactions are just going to be essential for helping build those strong foundations. Now, who's familiar with Lena Grow? Okay, good to see some hands. Lena Grow is a professional development program for child care professionals that really focus on the importance of those early interactions. Now, their research continues to show that the peak time for positive interactions is that 18 to 24 month window. Bless you. Which really ties in to the gap that we saw in the 30 million word gap. It started at 18 months, which makes sense as to why the 18 to 24 months would be such a critical time. And this is really the key window for the positive effects of early interactions. So not when they enter kindergarten, but when they're just developing. Now, some of the studies that we've read, this one really kind of stuck out to me, just talked about how the rate at which a child will learn all future words is set by the complexity of their vocabulary at age 3. Now, how many in the room know a child that may be close to age 3 that's not even really talking that much? So again, just the importance of these early interactions, the importance of having these back and forth conversations. Because we know that children need a vast vocabulary, right? To understand others, to be able to communicate to others, to be able to pull those words out of books when they're ready. And we know it's essential to reading comprehension. So in the early years, we're just doing a lot of exposure so that children are building that background knowledge and building that bank of knowledge that they can take with them. Now let's connect it back to brain development. So there's 2 areas in the brain that I'd like to highlight for language development, and that's the Varnix area in the back of the brain and the Broca's area, which is in the front of the brain. So what we know about brain development is it's developed from the bottom up and from the back to the front. So when we're looking at the Varnix area, this is where our receptive language is developed. So this is the first part that is developed for the child. And this is why children can know many, many words before they can ever express those words, right? You know, you can ask a child to do something, they can understand it, they can complete the task because they understand the words, but they haven't quite developed in the Broca's area that ability to express that language. So the Broca's area is more towards the front of the brain, so that's going to develop secondary. And this whole part of the brain really helps the listener understand what's being said. So it's really helping that child articulate the words to where people can understand what they are communicating. And what we know is multi-turn conversations is sparking the activation of the Broca's area. And this is leading to stronger and comprehension skills. So again, talkers become readers. We want to really develop them into conversational partners. We also really want to consider how children learn best. So children are going to learn best in a social setting when they're engaged through play, when they are allowed to attempt new practices without being perfect. That's a really critical one. In an atmosphere of respect where their dignity is protected, and when they have daily opportunities to interact with caring adults that are giving them feedback in real time through oral language. And I would make the argument that even adults learn this way as well. And then we really want to consider our quality early language and literacy environments. So all children are going to benefit from these hands-on experiences with words, stories, and pre-writing. Now, the quality of these interactions are going to be even more critical for a child that is a dual language learner, maybe learning more than one language at the same time, and also for any child that just needs additional support with making those connections. And I like to say that children build language and literacy down in the floor, engaged in play, and through hands-on experiences. So really trying to spread the word that in our early childhood classrooms, it's not taught through worksheets, it's taught in the floor through play. Oh, someone's trying to join our team meeting, I'm not sure. Okay, so let's get to the how. This brings us to how are we going to improve early literacy for Tennessee? They really want to come to the meeting. Maybe if you have access to turn off those notifications on this computer. We have our GELF support with us. Okay. You can go to the next one. Well, if it'll let you. Okay. So child outcomes improve when we build adult capabilities, and this is based on the work from the Center of the Developing Child, the theory of change. And this is something that has been with me even prior to my early care and learning career, but it really focuses on that adult skill building. It uses science to inform policies and practices, really seeking to reduce adversity, support responsive relationships, and build those core life skills. So at the core of the theory of change is adult skill building. So when we're thinking about improving child outcomes, who does it start with? Starts with us. It starts with the adults in the room. As we build our adult capabilities, we can improve child outcomes. I like to tell people the adult is the only fully developed person in the interaction with you and the child. So it's our responsibility to build our skills so that we can create these environments that are conducive for the best healthy development for children. Now, we can't do this by ourselves, and I think that's kind of the theme for the day, is trying to get outside of our silos. But impact is really made through collective ingenuity. So we have several partners that we do this work with. And I'll first highlight our DHS partners. So all of our partners, Child Care Resource and Referral, TECTA, Wages, Aim High, UT Schwartz, and then Child Care Tennessee, we are all funded through DHS, and we have really worked closely together in the last year to really bring the best early literacy initiatives to our child care professionals, and we really support their partnership in our work. We also have supportive partners. So Lena Grow is a program and a organization that we work closely with. We also work with the Hannon Center, who oversees a program that we run, Learning Language and Loving It, which Katie will talk a little bit about. We've also been able to build partnerships with Lakeshore so that we can get even more quality materials in classrooms, again, free of charge for our licensed child care professionals. And then finally, we built a partnership with Baker and Taylor, who can help us get more books in the classroom and scale it statewide. Now, we've also had the privilege to work with some community partners. Chattanooga 2.0 in the Chattanooga area. We have shared our resources that we have created around our book activity sheet so that they could put them in packets and share them with educators. We are currently working with GELF on a project to get some of the K through 3rd home libraries that children are receiving, school-age children. We are piloting that program in a few of our child care programs across the state that work with our school-age children after school and especially during the summer months. And then also the Nashville Public Library. We have been working with them on getting more materials out in Davidson County, as well as supporting their other early language and literacy initiatives. And that brings us to Katie. We've really wanted to look at how we are going to work more closely with our child care providers, and we've broken that down into some categories, and I want to turn it over to Katie, who's really going to go through our team, what we've been able to accomplish, and the impact that we've made.
This is a smooth handoff. Okay, so basically at CCR&R over the last few years, we have really been trying to optimize the way that we are engaging in coaching and training with child care educators throughout the state. We're refining our coaches' skills when it comes to coaching and training and making sure that we're getting research-based knowledge out to child care professionals. So first, I'm going to share a little bit about how we have been using Lena Grow in this process. Okay, so I know Regina already asked if anybody was familiar with Lena Grow. If you are not and you're interested after this, Jody, if you want to raise your hand, she has a table and she'll be happy to chat with you about it. So basically, Lena Grow is a program that uses a small recording device to record the number of conversational turns between a child and an adult. That raw data is then uploaded into the Lena Hub, which is like their cloud processing. And they turn it into a really easy to read report that coaches can use with child care professionals to see what their language environment looks like on a daily basis. You will see the number of words spoken by the child, by the adult, and then that conversational turn count as well. So here you see the Lena feedback cycle. And basically the way this works is there is a Lena day where all of the children wear the recording device throughout the day. And that's the only thing that happens. There's nothing special. You know, the child care professional is just doing their thing. Then once that data is uploaded after that day and the coach gets the report, they go to the child care center, they meet with the child care professional, and they have a coaching session where they follow the coaching guide protocol that Lena has put together to talk about some aspect of language and literacy practice in the classroom while looking at their data to see how it applies to them and certain children in their classroom that they may want to focus on, or the classroom as a whole. They then have that practice time between their coaching visit and the next Lena day. So this happens in a 5-week program. Each week they have a Lena day, a coaching day, and then their practice time until the next Lena day. Okay, so here we have the benchmarks that Lena shares about conversational turns. First, children who are experiencing 5 or less turns per hour on average are considered to be in language isolation. And as you can imagine, there are a whole host of negative impacts from that. So we definitely want to help all of our children move out of language isolation if they are there. The next benchmark that we see is that 15 turns an hour, and that is the average for the hourly interactions in a child care center. We then see 25 or more turns per hour, and this is what children typically experience in family child care settings. And then optimal talk is that 40 turns or more per hour. Children at home are 4 times more likely to experience that than children in a child care setting. And really the reason we wanted to share this is because of that IQ score in middle school that we see linked to the average conversational turns per hour. So Lena found that with an increase of 2 conversational turns per hour, there's a 1-point increase in the child's IQ score in middle school. So that is incredibly impactful. And you can see here, maybe the text is a little small on this, sorry, but the last line for each of those benchmarks, you can see the IQ scores. And so for that 15 turns per hour, the average IQ score is 95 to 100. But then if you drop down to the 40 turns per hour, they're up to 108 to 112 on average. So that's a really big impact. And these benchmarks just help us and childcare professionals understand that impact of early talk in a really concrete way and the long-term impact of it. Okay. So we at CCR&R chose to work with Lena because of the broad impact on children's development seen when conversational turns increase. Of course, we're the early language and literacy team. We really care about language and literacy, but there's so much more that comes from those conversational turns. The brain structure and function are supported by conversational turns as a whole, with growth seen in key regions of the brain associated with language when conversational turns increase. But we also see so much more. Everything you see here, those reading skills, IQ scores, social emotional development, and so much more are positively impacted when conversational turns are a focus and are increasing in the child's life. Okay, so we are gonna watch this short video just to give you like an opportunity to see what Lena looks like in practice in a childcare setting. Maybe.
At the child's language environment. The child wears the device and clothing. Lena technology is the industry standard for measuring talk with children, which is a critical factor in early brain development. Lena uses a small wearable device, often referred to as a talk pedometer, combined with cloud-based software to deliver detailed feedback that helps adults make proven, sustainable increases in interactive talk with children. First, the device captures a full day at the child's language environment. The child wears the device and clothing with a special pocket that helps Lena hear and measure accurately. At the end of the day, the file from the device is transferred to a cloud processing system. This system uses audio processing algorithms to analyze the file. The system doesn't recognize words, it just counts them. Files are immediately deleted after processing. No one can ever listen to the audio. The software then generates objective, actionable feedback reports for caregivers on the quantity and quality of talk in their child's environment. Program administrators access this data through Lena Online. Lena Online provides all the necessary tools and resources to securely manage a Lena program and measure its effectiveness. It's not about telling you what to say or how to say it. It's about recognizing just how powerful a conversational turn can be. Just one adult interacting with one child, coming together to create a lifetime of benefits for young brains.
Okay, so that's just a brief overview to let you all know kind of what that looks like in practice. It's on the YouTube. Thanks for bearing with us, y'all. Okay, so we ran our first Lena classrooms in 2023, and we want to share the impact that we've seen from then until now. So this is what the impact report looks like that Lena provides. And here you can see since January 2023 through the end of June of this year, we have seen 5,066 children in a Lena classroom. We have had 624 teachers go through the Lena program, and that's within 557 classrooms. So that is a pretty robust number across the state. We're pretty proud of that and excited to continue to watch it grow. One thing that we have seen across the state is that many of our childcare professionals are already doing a phenomenal job of talking with children. As you can see, the pre-average conversational turns there is 25.1 per hour. That's amazing. That is above the typical average of 15 turns per hour in a childcare center. But there's always room for improvement, right? And so we're thrilled to see that 6% increase where they go up to 26.5 on average. Next. Okay, so this is my favorite part of the impact report. And this is where we get to see the biggest positive changes for children whose teachers are taking part in Lena. So on the left here, we have the average number of turns for children who are experiencing less talk than their peers in their classroom. These children saw an average increase of 38% or 5.7 turns per hour, taking them from 15 to 20. That's pretty phenomenal. On the right, we see children who are experiencing fewer than 15 turns per hour. And many of these children may have been in or close to being in language isolation. So those kiddos we definitely want to pay a lot of attention to. And these children saw an average increase of 67% or 6.3 turns per hour, pulling them over that 15 turns hour average. And so if you think back to that slide we looked at about that IQ point correlation, those children are likely to see an increase of up to 3 points in their IQ when they're tested in middle school if this continues for them. That's phenomenal. And last but not least, we have the data collected from the childcare professionals who participated in Lena Grow 1. And as you can see, taking part in Lena Grow had a positive impact for the majority of the childcare professionals that we've worked with in the past 2 years. And we are thrilled with that. So there's also Lena Grow 2, which is, it functions the same as Lena Grow 1, but the coaching topics each week are different. And this allows the participants to continue their learning while still getting the benefit of that data. So since January 2023, we have had 60 childcare professionals take part in Lena Grow 2 that surveyed 528 children's language experiences and 54 classroom groups. This group, we saw a stronger impact with a 13% increase in conversational turns for all children. Again, they were already doing a phenomenal job. Their pre was at 24.8 turns per hour, but they got up to 27.9 on average. So just phenomenal language environments that these children are experiencing. And again, my favorite part. And this one's even more impressive, I think, because the children who were experiencing less talk than their peers in the same classroom saw a 49% increase this time. They went from, 15.4 to 22.9 turns per hour. And we see about the same impact for children who are experiencing less than 15 turns in our Grow 1 and Grow 2 data. In both groups, those children were experiencing more than 15 turns per hour by their last Lena day. And so again, just stellar, making sure children are not living in language isolation in their childcare centers. And again, we see a really high positive impact for the educators themselves, recommending Lena Grow, feeling more confident, experiencing job satisfaction, just all around positive impact for both children and educators. Yeah, her question was, what's the difference between Lena 1 and Lena 2, in case anybody couldn't hear. So Grow 1 focuses on 5 coaching topics, and it starts with the basics, like talking during meal times, talking during routines, things like that. And then if an educator has completed Lena Grow 1 and wants to go on and continue into Lena Grow 2, the topics get a little more robust. They'll be talking about early language and literacy in math, in shared reading, things like that. So it's just the coaching topics that are different. Does that make sense?
It does make sense about the coaching.
Yes.
Topics, but do they work with the same children? Like,
It's irrelevant. So the thing, we maybe did not explain this very well, so thank you for asking. One of the really important things about Lena is that it is a professional development program. It is not about the children's language, it is about the adults' language. And so the impact we're looking at is how many conversational turns children are experiencing, and that is a direct result of what the child care professional is doing in the classroom. We're not looking at children's language development, we're looking at the educators' language use with children. Yes, so because they would be using the same strategies and skills that they're learning in Grow 1, even if they get different children. They should still have that skill as an educator. Thank you.
I'm sorry. So when it says, that was that clarified a lot. But when it says turns, I forget what does that mean?
Conversational turn. So a conversational turn would be like I say, "Hi, how are you?"
I'm well, and you.
Okay, that's one conversational turn. Yep, so that back and forth serve and return, back and forth conversation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it's right. So you're a guy.
So the turns per hour is that, like, you know, in 1 hour, there is an average of 20 times that I have spoken to you and you have responded, or you have spoken to me and I have responded.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah.
And I'll say one thing that we've really been able to highlight is some teachers feel like, well, I talk all day long, right? And then they may look at their Lena data and they're like, well, wait a minute, I talk all day long, like where are all my turns? But then when we go in and observe, it's more what? Directive language. Sit down, no, stop. So that's not going to be a conversational turn. So when we see the data, this is actual interactions that's happening between the adult and the child. So they're having those conversations. The algorithms can just pause, they pause for 5 seconds. So they hear the adult voice because of the tone and the pitch in the voice, and then they wait the 5 seconds for the child to respond, and then that's considered the conversational turn. Mm-hmm. Does that help? Okay.
Yes.
So are the peer-to-peer conversation impacting their ability?
No. So one of the counts that Lena does give is child words. And so for that child, any words they speak are counted, whether they're talking to themselves, to the educator, to another child. So you'll see that child word count, but it does not count conversational turns between children because, again, it's focused on the educator's professional development.
Maybe a little bit why the complexity of the.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I was like, why? Give me more. So when we're looking at children's language development, what we know from research is that it is more positively impacted when conversation happens with a more advanced speaker. So that peer-to-peer conversation, while it has lots of really positive impact on their social emotional development, yeah, exactly. It's flat. It has lots of positive impact, right, on social emotional, on communication skills, on all kinds of things. But yes, like she said, it's flat. They're at the same skill level. So they're not learning much about language, about grammar, syntax, structure, all of that, like they do with an adult conversational partner.
Any other questions? I have a question. Okay.
Jody, I feel like we just need to pull you up here.
How are you choosing participants in Grow 1 or Grow? And it might be coming up, and just early.
No, you're not. So part of what happens with choosing participants, we will talk about in that specialization program section. But we also have educators who just are interested in professional development for whatever reason. Maybe they just like learning. Maybe they're struggling with behavior issues. Maybe they just really love literacy or language and want to learn more about it. And so it's something that our coaches can offer. Hey, would you like to take part in Lena? Here's what it is. Here's what we can do. As far as Lena Grow 1 and Lena Grow 2, everyone does Lena Grow 1 first. And then Lena Grow 2 follows for anyone who's interested. And sometimes that interest comes from, again, just true interest. And sometimes that interest comes from maybe they really have been struggling. Maybe they went through the whole Lena Grow 1 process and really never saw a rise in their conversational turns with the strategies. Maybe they're struggling to implement them. And so their coach is like, hey, you know what? I think maybe we should continue with this. Let's do Grow 2 so we can keep working on it.
But the doorway is their coach.
Correct. The doorway is their CCR&R coach.
As a Head Start program that is licensed, also sometimes the doorway is their boss telling them that they're going to participate.
We try to keep it volunteer.
We want it to be voluntary.
We get a lot more buy-in. You want to talk a little bit about?
Yeah. Regina was just saying that when it's voluntary, we get a lot more buy-in. And because what we want is positive impacts for children, we need that buy-in instead of just like, oh yeah, your boss said you have to do this, so I'm here and we're going to do it. And then they don't really care. And yeah. Just like any of us, if you don't care, you're not going to put in the same effort, right? So we really want that buy-in there. But we do understand that sometimes you just need it.
We're super thankful for the partnership because we had done Lena before, but we are, Head Start's funding is Head Start's funding. And, like we ran out of money to be able to do it ourselves, but partnering with CCR&R gave us the opportunity to do it again. And even once they get in it and they see, like, it really is insightful. And for some of them, it just shows them what a good job they're doing. Like, we had one last year whose numbers were astronomical, but it's because there were 3 people in there, and you're like, well, of course they get 90 turns an hour.
Hey.
But they children.
That means you have 3 really good educators, because that is not always the case, because you have,
Talking to each other.
well,
Like, if there's the need for, like, more people. If
Right.
there's the need that, 2's great, 3 is amazing.
absolutely.
So, anyway, but we're super thankful for it.
Well, good.
Can I just add one more thing?
Yes, go Jody.
We talked about that this is a professional development program for the educators, and that 100% is true, and that is what it's focused on. But the really cool thing is that we can look at that also with other types of like child assessment tools to see if it's impacting those. And we have a ton of research and evidence that if you, for example, a class instrument, which is focused on assessment tool focused on interactions, we can see that Lena Grow, just that first Lena Grow 1 can really move the needle on those class scores, especially in the instructional support domain for pre-K, which is very hard to move the needle on. Same with if you look at DECA or you look at teaching strategies, has like teaching strategies gold, language, literacy, and cognitive. So we have a lot of, we're not focused on the child outcome data, but it does resolve, which makes sense, it does resolve child outcomes.
Thank you. Okay, are we good to go? I don't want to cut anybody off. Okay, so moving on from Lena, we have really done a lot of work with individual coaching and the development and implementation of what we call our specialization programs. So our early language and literacy team has been dedicated to finding and sharing resources and knowledge with child care professionals that is easy to understand and implement. And the Hannon Center has been a wonderful support in this work. Their mission, which is to enable parents and professionals to transform their daily interactions with young children to build children's best possible lifelong social, language, and literacy skills, aligns really well with our own. Okay, so this is the Learning Language and Loving It program. This is a training program from the Hannon Center, and this program focuses on the development of the adult skills and knowledge to promote each child's social, language, and literacy development. So you might see a theme here: adult capabilities, child outcomes, Lena Grow professional development, the Hannon Center's training on the adult skills. So anyway, every member of our team has been trained in this program and is a certified trainer, which allows them to share this information during coaching sessions and trainings. We have also created a library of resources for childcare professionals and their families. We have book activity sheets for both classroom and family use. We have tip sheets around supporting language and literacy development and practices for both childcare professionals and families, and we have several other resources as well. So in our current contract year, which was October 1st, 2024 to now, we have had 10,458 points of contact with childcare professionals across the state. These points of contact have been in the form of professional learning groups, technical assistance and coaching, training, community events, technical assistance with families, and trainings with families.
They've been busy.
Yes, our coaches have been very busy. So we had 15 spots. For the majority of the year, we had 14 coaches. We currently have 12 coaches in the field. And we are hiring for several others that we will mention later. Okay, so one approach to coaching and training that we have been focusing on as an organization is these specialization programs. We have specialization programs for childcare professionals in preschool classrooms, infant toddler classrooms, and family and group childcare settings. And each specialization contains training and coaching components, as well as the opportunity to complete that Lena Grow cycle. Our team runs the early language and literacy specialization, which is open to all early childhood educators, regardless of age group or setting. In this specialization, participants take part in the Learning Language and Loving It training program, which is comprised of 8 training sessions and 4 video feedback coaching sessions, as well as that Lena Grow cycle. As I said before, one of the things that we really love about the Hannon Center's training materials is that they're easy to understand, and they provide the opportunity to create a common language around children's language and literacy development. So here you can see one example of the simplicity and clarity that our participants experience through these training modules. This is their continuum of language development. This is just 2 points on it. But at the very far left end there, you have your infants, who they term as discoverers. Make sounds other than crying, make sounds back when you're talking, and then they move on to communicators as the children start babbling. One of the reasons that we really love the way that Hannon has laid this out is that it does not have it defined by age groups, because children all develop at different rates. So these materials and these strategies are applicable to any child, regardless of the language they're learning, regardless of the rate at which they're learning language, for whatever reason that may be. So we also have the video feedback sessions that our participants take part in. For these sessions, participants take a short video of themselves, like 5-10 minutes max, and then they review it with their coach. They are working to video themselves implementing one or more of the strategies that they have been learning in their training modules. And then they assess with their coach. Well, how, did I do it? Did I implement that strategy? How did it go? What did I notice? What might I change next time? They talk about strengths and areas for growth. While initially, many of our participants were nervous about this, because let's be real, none of us like being videotaped. I was really sad to learn that we were going to be videotaped while training today. But what we found is that they got comfortable with it. They formed a close relationship with their coach. They didn't feel like they were being judged. It was really a moment of growth for them. It was for them to assess their teaching practice and find their points of growth. And it really changed their perspective on their practice, because even educators who maybe thought they were doing a great job noticed ways that they could improve. And those educators who maybe thought they didn't do it at all, when they watched it back, they were like, oh, Well, I actually kind of did do that, didn't I? So it was really good for everybody. Okay, so this was our first year running the early language and literacy specialization, and we had 57 childcare professionals complete the entire program, and they will actually be attending their graduation ceremony here next week, so we're really excited for that. Okay, so the last opportunity we want to share about are the summits and conferences that we've been providing. Many teams across our CCR&R network have been providing training opportunities like this, but we're going to focus on the ones that our team has provided. So we have been hosting early language and literacy summits across the state for the last 2 years. We have completed 10 early literacy summits. These were full-day, conference-style events that allowed childcare professionals to obtain 6 hours of early language and literacy professional development, introduce them to new ideas, offered opportunities to create plans and materials to take with them into their classrooms, and provided them with books and classroom materials tailored for their age group. Our goals for these summits were to help childcare professionals develop foundational early language and literacy knowledge and skills, to help them recognize how to integrate books into the various learning environments and how this connected to the QRIS, which, for those of you unaware, is the licensing tool that's being used by the state. We wanted to support them in identifying ways to connect books and conversations to the Tennessee Early Learning Developmental Standards, or TENLDS. And we wanted to support them in improving lesson planning around language and literacy while incorporating some of the new strategies that they were taking away with them from those trainings. While our team did the majority of the training, we couldn't have put on such wonderful events without the support of our partners at Childcare Tennessee, UT Swarps, TECTA, Childcare Wages, and AIM High. So we are very thankful to them. Okay, so across the 2 years of summits, we have trained 1,095 childcare professionals for a total of 643 professional development hours. We have distributed 1,095 early language and literacy material kits with high quality materials from Lakeshore, and we have distributed 15,789 children's books for the age group those professionals teach. We are really, really proud of that.
And not really a couple of years, but like August to May.
Yeah, August to May, so not quite a year, not quite 2 years. We just know that having those materials and those books has an incredible impact on the children's experiences in those classrooms, and so we're really proud. All right, so a look ahead. We are, of course, hoping to continue our current programs. We are continuing our early language and literacy specialization. We are continuing to provide training. We are continuing to focus on that high quality coaching experience for all early childhood professionals that are working with our coaches. We are expanding our team from 15 coaches to 24 to allow for more focused coaching opportunities and also for more classrooms to be able to take part in Lena Grow. Because while it is a wonderful program, it also requires a good bit of manpower. And so we need some more support on that. We are leading the implementation of Lena in all of those specializations that we mentioned before, the infant, toddler, preschool, family group, because we want to ensure consistency with the coaching. And what we have found is that our team, being a little more specially trained in early language and literacy content and practices, has made the Lena experience more impactful. And last but not least, we are moving forward to implement DECA as part of our specialization as well, do a pre-assessment and a post-assessment so we can look at the impact of those language and literacy practices on children's social emotional learning. So, how can you be a literacy champion? Just a few suggestions. If early childhood is not where you tend to spend your time, we encourage you to become familiar with what early language and literacy development looks like and how you can support it. We encourage you to make those connections between early language and literacy development and later reading success. Like Regina said at the beginning, we can't start in kindergarten and expect the impact that we need. We got to start younger. We encourage you to attend a training by one of your CCR&R early language and literacy coaches. They're a lot of fun and they have good information. And if you have any connections with local child care professionals, connect them with their early language and literacy coach so that they can get some support or possibly take part in LENA or our specialization. And we have the QR code there to the website if you're interested in finding out more information about CCR&R. And anything else you want to add?
No, I think we'll just take questions.
Yeah.
Do you work with preschools or inside public schools, or is it simply the preschool age children at child care centers?
Well, so we focus on our DHS licensed programs. So if they are licensed through the Department of Human Services, we can provide support. If someone that's not licensed through DHS reaches out to us, we'll make those connections for them. But our funding is really set for those DHS licensed programs.
Do you work with the after-school programs?
As long as they're in a DHS licensed. One thing that we've really tried to look at this summer is kind of building that or bridging that gap for our school-age children. Technically, early childhood can go up to age 8. And we have some skilled coaches on our team that come from the elementary world. And so they're able to provide some support to those child care professionals that are looking to close that literacy slump that happens in the summertime.
I think one of the things that happens with those after-school programs is they maybe don't know that we are an available resource for them. So if you have people in mind, just let them know.